Hi, I'm Kristen. Welcome to class. Today we will be thinking a little bit more about our breath patterns and moving in slightly different ways with the breath than we might be used to, just to shift some habits and to explore some different options. I also find that this practice is really nice for freeing up the rib cage and getting a little bit of spinal movement, which could feel really good if you're feeling stiff or locked up or holding a bit of tension in those spaces. So to begin, we're going to start sitting, and I'm sitting on the ground on 2 blankets. But if the floor is not an option, obviously you can kneel as well and sit on a block or two. You can also grab a chair. We'll be using a chair later. So if you want to sit up higher now and just make sure that your pelvis is balanced so that your spine is lifting easily and you can breathe easily without too much strain. We will also be using blocks and a yoga belt, so just have those things ready and we shall begin. Settling in, let's just let our arms come a little bit closer in towards our sides so that, excuse me, it feels like our arm bones are resting in the sockets rather than being pulled away. So not overly tight, but just they fall into place, hands resting. You can either close your eyes or lower your eyes. So your attention can start to shift inward to the breath, to your natural flow of breath. It's very common to want to change the breath, even at a subtle level. Maybe taking a fuller breath in or pushing the air out as we start to pay attention to it. So there's a practice of really allowing ourselves to rest in the breath. And it takes practice, it takes time to get used to. So starting that here, can you just be with what your breath is right now in this moment? Adding gentle movement to this exploration. Let's bring our fingertips together. So you may have to open your eyes to see what I'm showing. Fingertips together like I'm holding a globe, so there's some space there, so I feel spacious. And on the inhale, we're going to let the arms widen, the hands widen, and letting it float up and off the sides, and then exhaling, coming back. And your hands don't have to touch again, they can just float closer. Inhaling to open, exhaling. And even when I'm coming back in, I'm exhaling, just being mindful not to drop the energy, right? Keeping it buoyant, keeping it lifted. Inhale. Exhale. One more. And as you're breathing out and your hands are coming back together, press your hands together into prayer, Anjali asana, or Anjali mudra, I should say. And as your hands press, feeling how, yes, they're more connected, but there's still gaps, there's still spaces. Right, so noticing where the touch is happening, where the gaps are. Feeling a balance between the two sides coming together. And as we take our breath in, let the heart lift a little bit. Exhale, bowing. Release the hands Open the eyes, lift the gaze. We're gonna move to tabletop. So as you shift around, if you're working higher, you can do tabletop with your hands on a chair. You don't have to be knees on the floor. But if you are kneeling, you might want to keep a blanket or put a blanket down just to add a little extra padding. We're going to walk our hands out under the shoulders, knees under the hips. And we're going to move with the inhalation, widening our back. Right? So very often when we round the back, we're doing that on the exhalation, saying cat-cow. But for right now, let's just see if we can inhale into the back body as we round. Right? So while you're here in neutral, exhale all the air out. Inhale, widen your back, so your head will drop, your tailbone will drop. And like you're filling up a backpack on your back, like a balloon backpack, you're gonna inhale and spread those back ribs. And then exhaling, come back to neutral. Just lengthen the spine. Again, inhaling, press your hands down, fill up your back line, fill up and widen your back ribs. And exhale, come back to neutral. So we're trying to loosen up those spaces between the rib cage, the back ribs. Inhale. Exhale. One more time this way. Take a big breath in, fill it up. And let it out, come back to neutral. Now moving the other way, so into extension. On our in-breath, we're going to let our tail lift and our chest move forward. Open up that front line. Exhale, come back to neutral. So we're going to have to pause before we might want to. We might want to keep going into that rounding back. And then inhale, let the front body open. Exhale, neutral. Inhale. Exhale. One more. In. And out. Now that we're back in our center, let's move the right foot a little bit to the right. Send the left leg back and spin on the foot to set the foot down. And as you take a breath in, lift the left arm up. So you're firm through your right arm, shoulder reaching to the hand. On the inhale, take the left arm up and overhead. So you're going to start to open up that sideline. Exhale, come back. And the ribs, the top ribs are going to soften in. Inhale. Let them lift and widen. Exhale. One more of those. Inhale. And exhale. Rotating back to the floor. Bring the knee in. And let's go right over to the other side. So the left foot slides out a little bit wider, right leg goes back, turn on the foot. Strong left arm. So I'm not here, I'm pushing down into the hand. Right arm goes up, take a breath in. And just hang out there as you exhale, centering yourself. And then inhaling, reach that right arm up and over so you can really expand your right side. Exhale, come back, soften the right side in. Inhale, float it up and over. Exhale. One more in. And out. Back to center. Back to tabletop. Just let your hips move a little side to side. And then land right back in the middle with your hips, with your shoulders. And let's do a few kind of classic cat-cow, right? On the inhale, letting the front body open. Exhale, rounding. Inhale. And exhale. One more time, breathe in. And all the way out, pushing, pushing, pushing through your hands. Now centering your spine, tuck your toes under. Move your sit bones back a bit so they're right over the calf muscles. And then walk your hands forward. Now as you walk your hands forward and we start to come down on a diagonal, we're going to be mindful about kind of sagging into the floor like this. So I want to feel that there's a lift from under the arms. So I go forward into the knuckles, right, rather than just sitting back in the heel of the hand. So I'm going to push forward towards the knuckles, find that little lift from under the arms. And then I'm also reaching from the back body into the top of my arms to maximize the stretch forward. My sit bones are staying high. I'm reaching up and back through the sit bones. Head comes down neutral. Breathe here. Walk your hands back in, push yourself up, and we're just gonna roll our shoulders a couple times. Just kind of nice and, you can even bend your elbows a little bit, just roll it out. Good. Now to stand up, you can either walk your hands back and just shift onto your feet that way, or you can come to your knees, step one foot forward, lean forward, and come up that way. So I'm going to move my blanket out of the way, clear the mat, and grab onto a yoga belt. So my yoga belt does not need to be in a loop or anything, I just need something to hold on to. So this could be a scarf or any piece of fabric. And the idea with the belt is to create a framework for the arms to hold them in place. And I'm going to have my hands quite wide, so wider than the shoulders. I'm going to reach out through the thumbs so I get that nice long wrist line, just like we were pressing out our hands. And I want to be able to hold this position as I move my arms, right, this distance. So you'll see as we start to go through this how far apart your hands need to be. The right foot's going to come forward, the left foot's coming back. I'm going to have a bend in my front leg. Left leg can be on the straighter side. And I'm going to hold the arms forward. Right, to feel just how wide our hands need to be, we're going to practice what we're moving through slowly. So on the inhale, I'm going to take the arms up, pulling lightly out on the belt. And then exhale, bending the elbows down so the belt comes behind me, right? And this is where I'm gonna feel, okay, as I came down, did I have to do one hand at a time? If so, just widen your hands. So you want both hands to come down together. On the inhale, lifting the belt back up. Exhale, coming forward. Breathing in, lift the belt. Exhale, bending the elbows. Inhale, arms go up. Exhale, forward. And we're going to add a piece to this. So on the in-breath, float the arms. Exhale, bend the elbows. Inhale, float up. Exhale, forward. Pause here, take a breath in, and as you exhale, exhale, bend your back leg, right? Knee towards the floor, and spiral to the right, trying to hold your hands at the same distance. Come back, take a breath in, and exhale, relax your arms. So all the way from the top, inhale, float the arms up. Exhale, bend the elbows behind. Inhale, lifting from your back body. Exhale, reaching forward. Pause here, inhale. Exhale, bend that back leg as you rotate. Right? Just keeps it a little easier on the back. Inhale, float back, you can straighten the leg. And relax, exhale. One more time on this side. Inhale, go up. Exhale, bending the elbows. Inhale, up. Exhale, forward. Take your breath. Exhale, bend the back leg, rotate to the right. Inhale, come back to center. And relax, exhale, step the feet together. Now you might be feeling that in the shoulders, holding your hands that far apart in tension definitely adds a little bit of work into those shoulders, so you can just kind of roll them out. And then we'll get ready for the second side. So left foot stays, right foot goes back. Again, I'm going to keep a bend in the front leg, a bit straighter in the back leg, so I can feel when I'm bending and coming back. Right, holding the hands in front. Again, reach through the thumbs. And on the inhale, let's just practice going up and bending, exhale. Inhale, go up. Exhale, forward. Doing that one more time. Inhale, going to the sky. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Adding the rotations on this one. Breathe in. Exhale down. Inhale, lift. Exhale, forward. Pausing here, breathe in. Exhale, bend the back knee as you turn to the left. Come back, inhale. Arms down, exhale. Inhale all the way up. Exhale, bend. Inhale to the sky. Exhale, forward. Pause, inhale. Exhale, bend the back knee, rotate left. Wide rib cage. Come back, inhale. Exhale, relax. One more time. Inhale, floating, arms up. Exhale, bend the elbows. Inhale, back up. Exhale, forward. Pause and in. Exhale, bend and out. Come on back, inhale. Exhale, let it go, and step it forward. Whew. Let the shoulders move, shake it out. Place the belt down. Let's try something a little bit different. So in that one, we were rotating on the exhale, which is the classic movement. We do that all the time. Nothing wrong with it, great. But just to add some interest into the movement and see if we can feel something slightly different, let's see if we can find rotation on the inhalation. So instead of holding the belt, I'm just going to hold my arms up a little bit looser, a little bit wider. I'm also going to keep my elbows wide, so it feels like my arms are just an extension of the curve of my ribs. So there's just like this beautiful up and out feeling from, again, under the arms and from the sides and the back. So I'm going to return to right foot forward, left leg back. Again, I'm very easy in my legs. I don't want to feel too locked into things. So if my pelvis needs to move a little bit, it can. I love playing with a nice soft spiral through the body, right? Just to let it flow from the back leg up through into the rib cage. And that's the idea I want you to work with right now. So let's get into those kind of bent, soft legs, floating the arms up, finding our framing that helps us feel the curve of our rib cage coming out into the arms. Right? And since we're moving on the inhale, take your breath all the way out while you're here. Empty out. And then inhale, float to the right, right? Like you're floating your ribs up and wide, around to the right, and then come back, exhale. And it's not like I'm kind of sinking into my exhale, I'm staying up and floaty. Okay, so again, on the inhale, come into rotation to the right, and back, exhale. In, and out. Try it one more time. In, and out. Relax, step forward. And one thing I find is that my inhale is generally shorter than my exhale, so I may feel like I have to stop a little sooner than I'm used to. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a different way of being in the pose. So you kind of just honor that inhale where you get to, and then coming back on the exhale. Right. Let's try the other side. So left foot forward, right leg back. Arms lifting, taking up some space. Empty out, exhale. And then inhaling to the left. Coming back on the exhale. All right, so it's like the exhale is helping you reconnect to your center here. Inhale. And out. In. Out. In. And out. Relax, step forward. And let's take a moment to kind of just feel this in the body. So we're going to take mountain pose. But if you have two blocks handy, and I just have two foam blocks, those are light. I'm going to bring my feet right under my hips. Take the blocks the long way so that the edge is at your outer hips. Keeping the hands a little bit up and off the sides of you, so it's going to create that framework. And when we take mountain pose, we're lifting energy up the spine, right? So on a diagonal, our legs come into the hip sockets, femur heads into the hip sockets, and then we draw that energy into the pelvis and then up the spine. So the blocks are at that place where that diagonal energy is coming in. So with that light press, you can gather the energy up the midline, maintaining the width and the spaciousness that you've already created in your body by holding the hands a little bit wider. If you feel steady, you can have your feet all the way together. Right? And then find a gaze point that's allowing your eyes to stay level, your head to stay level. And feeling your breath as you hold this. Right? Thighs can lift, weight back on the heels. So even in mountain pose, which is, sometimes can feel ordinary. You can feel maybe that it's interesting and widening and exciting to gather the energy up your legs, into your pelvis, into your spine, but still having that width across you in the front and the back. And if you want a little bit of a challenge, close your eyes. Like pressing the blocks into your outer hips, because can that give you what you need for your balance? And open the eyes if they're closed, and release, take the blocks out. Right. For the next pose, we are going to work with a chair. You may find that you still want or need a block, so don't move them too far away. Well, let's get a chair. I just have my nice folding chair here, but it could be any chair. And I'm going to place it on the mat so the seat is looking to the left. So if I'm looking at the chair, the seat is looking to the left, and that means my right foot can come forward, my left foot's going back. And this one, my heel is going to go down into the ground. So I'm not going too far apart. Back foot slightly angled. And I am going to start moving my torso up and out of that back leg towards center. My right foot's a bit under the chair. And we will be leaning forward in a moment to get the hands down onto the chair. But I want to keep working a bit with these slightly different breathing patterns. And we're going to move into a fold. This is a nice, easy fold on the inhale. Okay? So I'm just going to set my hands on the hips. And classically, we would, take a breath in, exhale to come forward. Again, it's a nice, wonderful stabilizer to come forward with that exhale. I love doing that. But let's just see what happens if we can build that internal stability with the inhale, and to feel that the inhale gives us that sense of floating our bodies forward rather than kind of powering into it. Okay, so resting the hands on the hips, easy shoulders, a nice feeling of slack shoulder blades kind of resting on the back. Empty out, exhale. Inhale, start to come forward. And so inhaling, I'm filling up my front line. Exhaling, coming back up. And as I exhale, I'm going to really ground into that back heel. Inhale, floating forward, staying with the big toe mound of that right foot. Exhale, coming back. Now when we come forward in this one, we'll put the hands down. So inhale, float. Exhale, hands come down. So left hand to the seat, right hand higher on the chair back. That arrangement is already going to help me rotate a bit to center, right? Because we do want to go this way towards the back leg. So I'm going to center myself, push through that left hand. And on the in-breath, take the right arm up. Now I'm just going to let the arm land wherever it needs to land to honor the rotation that I'm actually doing, right? So it might be on a diagonal. And then I'm going to come back on the exhale. Inhale, floating up, back leg still firm. Exhale. Last one, in. Nice big spacious feeling. And out. Bend the right knee. You may feel your knee touch the side of the chair, which is great for just holding it in place. Lift your back heel and slide your left leg back further. Now that I'm lower, I'm going to drop the elbow down, press through that elbow. So yes, I have a shorter distance, but it's actually great to work the shoulder at different lengths of connection here. So, with the back leg strong, thigh bone lifting up to the bone, shoulder reaching down to the elbow. Let's go up with the right hand on the breath in. Right, reestablish that rotation. Staying here and breathing, just seeing what happens if you hang out here, or adding a little bit of movement with that right arm. So if you're moving the right arm on the inhale, reach it up and over by your right ear, and then bring it back on the exhale. Inhale, up and over. Reach it from your side body, from your back body. And back. Let that side body soften back in. One more time. Breathing in. And out. Relax the arm down. Come out of the rotation. Walk your left hand up to the seat. Slide the right foot back, left foot forward. Rock your weight back into your heels and then come up. Inhale, arms float up. Exhale, arms come down, and then stop the hands where your blocks would be. And so you can come back to that mountain pose, feeling of just being nice and broad. Okay, now we're going to turn the chair and see what happens on the other side. So if my seat's facing the right, my left foot goes forward, my right foot goes back, and the heel grounds down. Hands on the hips, right? Making sure that I'm not rolling on that front foot, that my big toe mound is staying rooted. Exhale. Inhale. Float forward. Exhale, come back. Root through that back heel. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale forward. Set the hands. Right hand's down, lower, left hand's up high. Really push through that right arm. So already you feel like it's going to turn you, because it is. And then when we're going up, we're breathing in. So inhale, left arm lifts. It might be here, right? No. Just think about where your breastbone is. Let your arm be an extension of the collarbone, the rib cage. Come back. Inhale. Exhale. In. Out. Bend the left knee. Touch it to the side of the chair. Right heel up and back. Slither, 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 back. Drop the elbow. Right. Try not to hang out in the shoulder, but push through it. You're very rooted there, anchored. Back leg is strong. And inhale the left arm up. By all means, just enjoy this. If this feels good to you, just be here. If you want to move that top arm on your breath in, reach it up and over. Come back, exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Release. Hand comes down. This hand comes back. Slide the foot back so it's easier to step the feet side by side. Now shift your weight back and come up. Arms lift. And then arms down, just floating off the sides. Now we're gonna let that go. Move the chair out of the way. And now we're gonna grab 2 blocks. Now if you find that the blocks are just too low, you can always pull the chair back in and do this next sequence with the chair in front of you, so you can work high. I'm gonna grab my cork blocks, as they're a little bit heavier, a little bit more sturdy. And I'm gonna set them out on the floor at the tallest level in front of me. I'm working with my legs apart, so I've turned on my mat, so that's why they're off to one side. I'm setting my feet so that they're parallel, the toes are pointing forward as best I can. Now if you have knees, that when your toes point forward, your knees are really rolling in, I would just angle your toes a little bit and let your kneecaps face a little bit more forward, right? The energy in the legs here is when we start to fold, is to take the inner thighs back, but we want to keep those inner knees kind of moving forward, right? So that's that energy balance in the legs, which is something to be thinking about. So you don't just feel like you're slamming back into your knees, especially if you tend to hyperextend. Right? So very much like we've been doing, we're going to move on the inhale. Right? Let's just put our hands down on the belly so we can feel, just standing here, can we sense air coming down, or like the displacement, that volume change happening down in the pelvis as we take the breath in. And emptying out. Right, so the exhale is actually coming from down here. It's kind of drawing, kind of pushing the air all the way up and out. So that gives us that feeling of lift from the base up. Now if we start to tilt forward into our hinge, and we again use this internal pressure to help support the spine and keep us feeling buoyant and happy and floaty. Right, so on the inhale, just see if you can start shifting your pelvis up and over your legs. So you hinge, your buttocks can reach back, your sit bones can reach back, inner knees reaching forward. And then use your exhale to come up. Do that again. Inhale. And exhale. Slide your hands back on your pelvis so your thumbs are closer to your sacrum. And this is, again, where we might have our hands more classically. Okay, so we're gonna roll those elbows back, roll the chest open, and as we inhale, come forward. Exhale, come back. This time, let's put our hands down on those blocks. So inhaling, coming forward. And set your hands down onto your blocks and just pull them in right under your shoulders. Again, if this is too low, either add another block underneath or come up to your chair. Set the hands on those blocks, pushing down so your shoulders are feeling really stable. Bend your right knee, and weight is going to go into the right leg, which is going to open up that inner leg line on the left side very nicely. Get that moment of connecting into that space from the groin all the way down. And then come back, and let's shift it into the left leg. So we bend the left knee. Again, see if we can get a sense of opening through that right inner leg line. And come back. Great. So now that we've felt that, let's take our blocks, and I'm just going to bring them to the midline. Right? So the gap is horizontal. That way when I set my left hand on the blocks, I'm not just going to slip through the gap. I'm going to push down with my left arm, right? So you can see how I'm bringing that left shoulder more to the midline just by pushing, right? That's going to help me rotate. Right arm to the right. On the inhale, I'm going to start taking that arm up. And exhale, come back. Now this is where the question of what does the pelvis do come in. And it can do many things. It can stay put, which makes it a little bit harder to rotate, and it will focus more on rotating the thoracic, which is where most of the rotation usually happens. Right, so if you hold your pelvis still and just try to rotate your thoracic, you'll feel the challenge of that. If you want to be a little bit more loose in your spiral, and you can move your pelvis, let your pelvis move, which means this side's going to drop and the right side's going to lift. as you rotate to the right. And you may find that inner leg stretch again if you do let the pelvis move. So there's nothing wrong with that. And then we come back. Let's just do that one more time. So we just feel nice spiral from the lower half into the upper half and back. Good. Now place the hands on the blocks, push your hands forward, stretch out, sit bones reaching back. Just like before in puppy pose, we don't want to just sink into the arms. I want to feel the underside of my arm reaching forward into the knuckles, top side of the arm reaching from my back shoulders, back ribs, out. So there's a nice, gorgeous stretch happening from both sides into the arms. Pull the hands back. Let's find those blocks again, horizontal. Right hand pushing right down through the midline. So here, my shoulders off center. I'm pushing, bringing it to the center. Okay. Now left arm can go out, and I'm just gonna see if I hold my pelvis still as I can. What happens if I just move through the ribs? Definitely challenging. Right, I'll just do that one again, trying to move more just from rib cage range of motion versus letting the pelvis move with me. So if I let my pelvis go into the rotation, I get that little feeling from that right leg, bringing the energy up and across the body into that top arm, left arm, and then back. And then I could flow through that again, flowing up and coming back. Now hands on those blocks. One more time, stretch it forward. Right, if you feel all your weight forward in your toes, move your blocks back a bit and try to get the weight back in your heels, sit bones reaching back so it feels very anchored in your pelvis, kind of up and back, so that your arms can reach out. Maybe you could always go a little bit wider with your hands if you need to. Bring the hands back in. Right. And since our legs have been in this position for quite some time, let's bend the knees, heel toe, heel toe, heel toe, feet closer. Rock the weight back in your heels. Knees are bent, hands on the hips, and stand on up. Just makes it a bit easier to come out. Now we're going to go down to the ground and have a yoga belt with us. Don't really need these guys right now. We're going to take the belt and place it around our thighs. So I do need a loop. I have a quick release belt, so I just undid it. I'm going to open that space so I can clip it around my mid thighs. If you have a different kind of belt, you might have to kind of step through. But I know my legs are hip distance because there's a bit of space and I can fit my fist between my thighs. Right? That generally gives me a good setup. Now I want to land right in the middle of my mat. So I'm going to come down, make sure there's nothing underneath my head. Hold on to the sides of my mat. So again, I know I'm in center because it's the same reach out to the sides. Walk the feet in under the knees. Press your head into the floor so you can lift your chest and tuck your shoulders in underneath you. Right? So you can pull a little bit outward on the mat, tuck the shoulders underneath, and then settle back to the floor. Okay? Now I'm just going to hold my arms like this. You can let go of the mat. You can just have your hands set onto the ground. We're going to lift the hips. So as we lift up onto the shoulders, I'm going to lift the pelvis into bridge, keep the head centered, press my legs out into the belt. So this is a great way to find neutral. And then slowly exhale back down. Inhale, floating up. Exhale. Inhale. Grounding right down through your heels. Stretch your knees away. And exhale. Let's add a lift of the arms. So on the inhale, as the pelvis goes up, free those shoulders and lift the arms overhead. Exhale back down. And by moving the arms, notice if there's a change in how it feels in the pose, in the breathing, right? Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Wonderful. Now let's just relax here. Take the belt off. If you have one like mine, just unclip it or slip your legs out. Move your belt to the side for the time being. Walk your feet as wide as your mat. Drop the knees together. So there's a nice spread across the lumbar and the back pelvis. Softening of the abdomen and the groins. And then open the arms out to a T, so we get to open the shoulders and the chest evenly. And feel kind of how spacious you can be here. Breathing into the ground and all the spots that you're connected to. Letting your shoulders relax after all the work. We're going to do one more twist, and it's not going to be about the upper half moving. It's going to be about the lower half. So separate the knees, keep the feet hip width or mat width. Drop the knees to the right, so you're staggered. And you'll get that beautiful reach down the left line. Left shoulder stays down, left knee is reaching away. Your left buttocks can gently hug in towards you, like into the body, to really maximize that lengthening over the hip and abdominal space, thigh space. And shift back to center. Just land in the center for a moment. And take the legs so your knees go to the left, so you're focusing on your right side stretching. So the buttocks again is off the ground. You can hug in towards the body. You're going to reach down across that hip, down through the knee and the thigh. Try to keep your right shoulder anchored. And then come on back. It's nice and easy, very soft rocks, a little side to side, across the pelvis. And then center yourself in the middle, right in the pelvis. Knees stay wide, just lift your feet off the ground and grab your knees. You could always hang out here, just let the feet hang, arms straight. Or you could start bending the elbows and pulling those knees in a little bit closer. And I'm just keeping the space between the legs, so I'm not cramming into my front spine or my abdominal contents. I'm just giving them some room. It might feel even easier to move your
hips, like your legs and your hip sockets with this width. Now we're just going to relax that hug so we can bring the legs a little closer. And I'm just going to stretch the arms overhead, rock over to one side, and come on up. I'm going to set up our final resting pose, and because we were using our chair before, I'm just going to bring it back into play. So the chair is going to come onto the mat. If you have a chair with an opening like this, just to be on the safe side, you can turn your chair this way. Because when we lay down and we have our legs up on the chair, we want our knees to rest and our feet. And if the chair is facing this way, this side is a little bit lower than this side, and it tends to, like the feet tend to lift. So that way there's an angle up to catch both the heels and the knees, right? And that tends to be better for smaller people. If you don't have a chair with a hole, you might just find you have to put some stuff under your feet because you just want everything to be supported. I am going to add a blanket to this. So there's just a nice, soft, welcoming surface for my legs. I also have a second folded blanket, just like that. It's like a pillow. It could be an actual pillow if you prefer, or if that's all you have. You're gonna place that down, and then my belt. So I'm gonna grab this again. The easiest way, especially if you're kind of doing this pose and your back is feeling a little tender, because this might be a pose you just do on its own. It's always nice to think about how you're coming in and out of things. So just to be really neutrally aligned through your spine, you just kind of sit on your side hip and you're like near the chair, but you're facing away from it. That way you can lay on your side and then roll onto your back and just slip your legs up. That way you don't have to curve down and kind of get onto your back, which could be quite uncomfortable and challenging. So this is just a nice way to slip yourself into the position. And like I was saying, I just want to make sure that the back of my knees are held, my heels are also resting, calves can open. To hold a little bit of that energy back into the hips, which will help everything relax around the pelvis and the low back and kind of ripples out through your whole body. I'm going to belt my legs. So again, I have this quick release belt, so it unbuckles, which makes it a little easier to just slip behind my legs and to clip once I have that. Again, if you need to loop your legs through, then you'll do it that way. I'm going to belt my legs fairly tight, so I do, when I relax, I can feel the belt holding the energy of the legs back into the hip sockets, right? So I don't have to actually push into the belt's there. I can feel it. And that way I can just totally rest, and everything can rest. The height of the head blanket is enough just to keep my chin a little bit down. I don't want my chin up like this. So I just have enough under my head to keep that kind of long neck space. The curve of the blanket is resting into the natural curve of my neck. So it feels that little bit of support. You can always add a little bit more if you need to. Again, this is just a nice way for your nervous system to ground. Relax and kind of get your shoulders into place on your back so that the front shoulder can ease down, which is also why having the head blanket is important. If you feel like your shoulders are curved and your head is falling back, you just don't have enough under your head. You need to be able to lift the head enough to relax your shoulders. Now with all that said, we are going to rest. So your arms are going to just go heavily into the ground. Let all that work go. Let your whole body be held by the earth. Deepening the center of your palms. Feeling your eyes settling back and your skull settling back. Watching the breath. See if you can breathe into the back of your heart. And then slide that breath down to the back of your pelvis, right? So the sacrum is right in the middle. And imagine breathing into the fullness, back of your sacrum, the back of the pelvis. Now coming up to the front of the body, breathe as if you were breathing through your navel, through your belly button. Just let the breath flow in that space. Then letting the breath come up a little bit higher, come up to the front of the heart space, breastbone space, and breathe there. Lastly, combine all these spaces. Right? Breathe into all of those spaces. Extend and expand the breath out into all of the areas. And it doesn't have to be so specific, right? Just think about a big, full breath into all sides, to all parts of your body. Maybe you think about your whole body breathing, every cell breathing. Now you can stay in this pose for a very long time, as long as you need to, right? 10, 15, 20 minutes. But just for our sake for today, we're gonna start to move out of it. But again, if you need to stay, stay. Okay. We're gonna walk the feet in closer to the edge. So I can take the belt off. And if it's easier to take the belt off when we roll to the side, you could also do that. But just take your arms overhead and stretch out. Stretch from your front and your back. Right, so I'm gonna wiggle my shoulder blades free and let the arms reach from my back line as much as my front line. And then I'm going to come off the chair by rolling to the side. Right, the leg just going to come out the way it went in. And then up I go to sit. Okay. Now we are going to close in a sitting position. So you can sit up on your chair or just come back to sitting on the blanket. So taking a moment to come full circle back to where we started. Balance pelvis, lift the spine, taking up space. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Right, that's our little checklist, making sure all those things feel good. And just let your hands float up and off the sides. Take a big breath in. Your breath is filling out to your hands. And then exhale, slowly let your hands come together, until they touch and connect and find that centered, balanced placement and connection. Take a big inhale, floating the heart. Exhale, bowing, honoring that heart wisdom. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace.